Welcome. Welcome to the Walter Reed Sensory Garden. I'm Marilyn Martin, and I'm the liaison between the Walter Reed Senior Advisory Committee and our lovely garden. Just let me give you a little bit of history about the garden before you take a tour. About 10 years ago, we would not have recognized this. It was just a plot of land. Some of the students in the area, some of the teenagers, some of the bonsai people did little individual garden plots. About 6 or so years ago, the county decided that they would make this one large garden from here all the way toward Walter Reed Drive. They bulldozed, they uncovered this lovely brick wall, which is the border for our garden. And they said to our senior director at that time, Marcy Cott-Todd, this is a project that perhaps you want to bring to the attention of the Walter Reed Senior Committee. And she did, and we said that sounds like a wonderful project that we can do. So we took on the project of making this a garden. Luckily, we had some help from the county because they had a master gardener who put together some ideas on how we could start it. But even more luckily, one of our members, Wayne Southard, knew someone who has all sorts of great experience. His neighbor, Wendy Sparrow, was recruited to be our gardener, and she's helped us create this lovely garden. She's going to give you the tour, but let me tell you that if you like the garden and you want to help us, want to be a volunteer, you need no experience whatsoever. You just need to be willing. We supply the instructions, we supply the tools, and we'd love to have someone come help us with the garden at any time. So with that, let me turn it over to my colleague, Wendy.
Hi, my name is Wendy Sparrow. I work with Marilyn on the Walter Reed Garden. I do most of the design of the garden and the selecting of plants, and I also coordinate volunteers to come and help on work days with the garden. I've been doing this for about 6 years now, and when I first started with the garden, we had about half of one bed planted and very little of another one. So I feel that we've almost come to completion of the first stage, but a garden is always changing, so it's never finished. One of our entrances to the garden is here on the trellis that was donated by a local garden center, and we have put native honeysuckle over it. This is a scarlet honeysuckle that attracts hummingbirds. It also is lovely over the harbor, and we get many comments on how wonderful it looks there. So we'll go through the entrance into the garden. When I select plants for the garden, I take many things under consideration because every plant has a purpose here. So it could be because the foliage is beautiful. It could be it has bright flower. It could also be because it provides food and shelter for wildlife. But there's many plants, and how tough it is too, because this is a public garden. So we want plants to be able to survive pretty well without a lot of help. We try to address all 5 senses in the garden as much as we can. So we call it actually the Walter Reed Senses Garden. So I look at color a lot in the garden. An example of the foliage color here is with the coral bells. So it's not so much the flower here, but the contrast of the color of the foliage with the green foliage around it, and also the texture of the foliage like on this mugo pine. One of my favorite plants in the garden is the coneflower. This is a native plant that's very tough, easy to grow, but it also is wonderful because it's not only a beautiful flower, but it attracts birds and butterflies, bees, and when the flower head seeds, the birds really come in and enjoy it, and it stays erect all winter, so it's actually kind of nice to look at through the winter months. Here's an example of a plant that addresses your sense of touch. This is lamb's ear. Lamb's ear really doesn't have much of a flower. This is about all you're going to get with it. But this leaf is soft, it is shaped like a lamb's ear, and fuzzy. And it used to be used for bandages and for blood clotting. back before they had all the modern conveniences that we have with medicines. So you go along here, here are some plants that address your sense of smell, because we have a herb garden here and also a big patch of lavender. And lavender is just a wonderful plant that is used for so many perfumes and cosmetics and soaps. Nowadays, it's the leaf that has the perfume smell. We encourage people to rub their hands on leaves because that's where the scent of the plant comes out. So in our herb garden, we also have oregano, we have rosemary and chives, thyme, and then we add some annuals. Those are our perennial herbs. We add some annuals in too in springtime and summer to fill in the spaces. As we walk down here, we also have some mint. This is a lemon balm. Again, the scent comes from the leaves, so when you rub the leaves, the scent of lemon comes out. It can be used in teas as well. So it doesn't have a great flower, but it has many uses. And this is hyssop, which is also a member of the mint family. As we go back into the garden more, here's another example of foliage. This is a native grass, little blue stem, no flowers, but as it progresses through summer into fall, it gets taller and taller and has a beautiful bluish gray color to it and stands pretty erect, so it doesn't flop over as much as other grasses. So that's really a plant that distinguishes itself in the fall. I look for plants for all seasons, so there's something interesting even in wintertime as you go through the garden. Here are some more natives. This is Joe Pyeweed. Joe Pyeweed is a very tall plant, and it gets purple. It's just starting, sort of mauve-colored blossoms that are coming on it. This is actually a dwarf Joe Pyeweed because the true native gets to be about 10 feet tall. It's a magnet for butterflies and bees and other pollinators, and is a wonderful flower for the garden. It's also very tough. You don't have to do anything but keep it under control size-wise a bit. Another native plant is buttonbush. Now this is almost it can grow into a tree. And if you look carefully, you'll see it has round white blossoms on it, the shape of a button. It attracts, again, a lot of wildlife. It's very different in the structure of many of the other plants that are low, so it's always good to add some height, some different levels in your garden. We've got a little bit of a shade garden here that's still progressing. We've just planted this last year with some columbine and ferns. We have a native wood poppy over there that's beautiful yellow blossoms, early spring. Again, we're looking at all the seasons. There's also wood phlox here, which is another early spring plant, and they've already bloomed. During the year, as the garden changes and some things don't make it or they need to be moved around, we end up with some open spaces. We fill in with annuals during the year. We had in the background here, you'll see the purpley blue annual delphinium, but this year it reseeded. We had such a mild winter. It reseeded all over the garden, and 2 weeks ago it was filled with delphinium. We've pulled them out now and added some annual salvia, and there's some zinnia seeds in there that we've added to fill in the spaces. Here's a plant I recommend for everybody to put in their garden if they want to attract wildlife. This is milkweed. It's called butterfly weed, and it's a beautiful orange, bright color right now. It will last for a month or so, the color, but it's most important because it's a host plant for the monarch butterfly, which has seriously deteriorated in population the last 10 years. And by a host plant, I mean it's the only plant that they lay their eggs on. The caterpillar spends its entire life there before turning into a butterfly and flying off. These are our black-eyed Susans. They're kind of a showstopper because when they're in bloom, you can see them from way across the parking lot, and they attract people to the beautiful yellow colors. They're also a native plant. Birds love them. And we'll walk down here to this area. Now this is the other milkweed, the swamp milkweed here, between the daisies and the phlox. Again, it's a attraction for the monarchs, so if you're looking for any caterpillars, that would be the place to find them. We have some coreopsis, meadow sage, bee balm, native, and that brings us back to the arbor again, where we started. And Marilyn's going to explain to you a little bit about our brochure that we have put together this year to help people with identification of plants in the garden.
I hope you enjoyed Wendy's tour of the garden. Unfortunately, she can't always be here. We want you to come and walk the garden, enjoy it. And because people ask questions all the time about what plant is this, we did put together this last year, a brochure, which you're welcome to take and identify the plants and be able to take it home and maybe plant some on your own. I also suggest that when you're here visiting, you go inside the Walter Reed Community Center. On the wall, you're going to find a number of photographs, and they're going to show you our garden before it looked like this. We have photos that go back to when it was still lots of stones and lots of nothing here. And I think it's a great experience to be able to see all that. Thank you for viewing our garden, and welcome.